Captain Elias Trent sat in the lounge of the moon's orbital diplomatic hub, sipping lukewarm coffee while watching a group of alien delegates mingle. The hub was a marvel of human engineering, a massive rotating cylinder that created artificial gravity, its walls lined with sparkling observation, windows showing the gray surface of the moon below and the deep black of space beyond. For humans, it was still a place of wonder, but for some aliens, it was just another meeting spot. Elias had been sent to represent Earth in this small but important gathering. He was known for being witty, sometimes too witty, but it had gotten him out of more diplomatic trouble than he could count. Today, he felt the familiar twinge of excitement mixed with anxiety. Diplomats from 3 different species were here. The Elari, with their translucent skin and subtle telepathy, the Granids, squat and armored, speaking in low growls, and the Clith, thin and tall with eyes like liquid silver. Humans, of course, looked entirely ordinary. He leaned back in his chair and took another sip of coffee. The smell was terrible, but it was all he had. The room buzzed with alien chatter, some of it translated directly into his headset, some of it not. Elias tried to focus, but he had an idea forming in his mind, a little joke that might lighten the mood. He stood up, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all kinds," he began, bowing slightly. "I have a proposal." He paused dramatically, noticing the curious glances from the aliens. "I think humanity should show how adaptable and charming we are. And what better way to do that than by marrying an alien?" A pause, then laughter, not all of it polite. The Granids chuckled in a deep, resonant way. The Clith blinked, clearly amused. Even some humans smiled nervously. Elias grinned, knowing he had broken the ice. "Relax," he said. "Of course it's a joke. I wouldn't actually." That's when he noticed her. Lyra. The Elari woman stood at the edge of the room, her skin shimmering faintly in shades of violet and silver. Her eyes, large and clear, seemed to look directly into him. She leaned forward slightly, the corners of her mouth lifting ever so subtly. Then she whispered 3 words so quiet that only Elias could hear them. "I accept." The room froze. For a moment there was complete silence. Even the soft hum of the life support system seemed to pause. Elias blinked. Did she just say what he thought she said? He swallowed, unsure whether to laugh, apologize, or faint. He stammered. You're serious." Lyra's eyes never left his. "Completely," she said. Her voice was soft but carried a weight of certainty. "If it pleases you, I accept your offer." Elias felt his face heat up. He had made a joke, a harmless, light-hearted joke meant to amuse a room full of interstellar diplomats, and now it seemed the joke had taken on a life of its own. He glanced at the other delegates. The Clith raised an eyebrow. A Granid let out a low growl that might have been a chuckle. No one else moved. "Well," Elias said finally, trying to regain control, "that's unexpected." "Unexpected, yes," Lyra said, tilting her head slightly. Her voice was musical, almost hypnotic, but not unwelcome. He swallowed again. "I mean, it's very flattering," he said cautiously. "But you see, I was joking." "I understand," she said. "But humans often joke about things they mean, or things they can handle." She paused. "I like that about you." Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. Not from fear, but from the strangeness of being understood in a way by someone so alien. He had spent his life negotiating, joking, and talking to humans, aliens, and artificial intelligences alike. But this was new. He had never had someone, a stranger, look at him and accept something that was only a joke. The room slowly started moving again. A Clith delegate coughed. The Granid cleared its throat. Humans exchanged nervous glances. Elias tried to collect his thoughts. "Well, thank you." I think." Lyra smiled faintly, a gesture so subtle it could almost be missed. "You don't need to decide now," she said. "I merely wish to express my acceptance. It is not a demand, but an invitation." The words hung in the air like stars in the void. Elias nodded slowly, unsure what to say. He returned to his chair, feeling the heat in his face and a flutter in his chest that had nothing to do with embarrassment. After the formal greetings ended, Elias found himself wandering the observation deck. The moon below stretched out like a barren sea, gray and cratered, while the earth rose in the distance, a brilliant blue and white marble. He tried to make sense of the situation. He had joked. That was all. How could someone possibly take it seriously? And yet Lyra's words kept echoing in his mind. I accept. The next few days were strange. Lyra seemed to appear wherever Elias went. She asked questions, not probing, not invasive, but curious. She asked about Earth's culture, its history, and its sense of humor. Elias found himself explaining things he had never thought about. Why humans laughed at certain things, why jokes mattered, and how humor could sometimes bridge the most impossible gaps between people or species. One evening, as the artificial sun of the station set, Elias and Lyra stood near the observation windows. The stars glimmered like diamonds scattered across black velvet. "Why did you accept?" he asked, finally daring to ask the question that had been burning inside him. Lyra's gaze didn't waver. "Because you are human," she said simply. "Your species does not wait for permission. Your species dares even when unsure. That is admirable. That is rare among the Alari." Elias laughed softly, shaking his head. "So it wasn't about me at all." "It was about humans, partly," she said, "but also about you." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "I sense courage in you, and humor. Both are qualities I respect." Elias felt a mixture of pride and discomfort. He was not used to being praised by someone so alien, so intelligent. "Well," he said, smiling, "I guess that makes me a very lucky human." The following day brought the first real challenge. A minor diplomatic incident erupted when a Cliff delegate misinterpreted a human custom. Voices were raised and tension flared. Elias, remembering Lyra's words, stepped in. He explained, with patience and a touch of humor, the intentions behind the human behavior. Slowly, the room calmed. Lyra watched him quietly, as if measuring his worth. By the end of the week, Elias realized something important. The joke he had made, one he had meant to be fleeting, had opened a door. He had inadvertently shown the aliens a side of humanity they rarely saw: spontaneity, courage, and humor. Lyra had recognized it immediately, and the others were beginning to understand it as well. That night, as the station quieted, Elias sat alone in his quarters. He thought about Lyra, about the strange turn of events, and about the joke that was no longer just a joke. Somewhere in the cosmos, a connection had been made. A bridge had been built, not through weapons or wealth, but through the simplest of human traits, daring to be human. He smiled to himself. Tomorrow he would meet Lyra again, and this time he would not joke. He would be ready to learn, to listen, and perhaps to discover just how far a joke could take a human and an alien. For the first time in a long while, Elias Trent felt that the universe was not so big and frightening after all. Sometimes it was just a little unpredictable. And sometimes a little unpredictability was exactly what humanity needed. As he drifted off to sleep in the quiet hum of the moon station, Elias couldn't help but think, what if the joke wasn't really a joke at all? The next morning, the moon station was alive with activity. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridors, attending meetings, conducting experiments, or simply observing the humans and each other. Elias Trent walked beside Lyra as they made their way to the communal observation deck. The translucent panels of the deck offered a breathtaking view of Earth, blue and white, rotating slowly against the blackness of space. "You never get tired of looking at it?" Elias asked, gesturing toward Earth. "Never," Lyra said, her voice calm, almost melodic. "It is vibrant, alive, and unpredictable, much like your species." Elias smiled. "I'll take that as a compliment." Lyra tilted her head, observing him carefully. "It is. Humans are not as predictable as the Elari. Your species embraces uncertainty and you do not fear mistakes. That is unusual and it is admirable. As they walked, Elias noticed the subtle ways Lyra moved. Her body language was elegant, precise, and controlled, yet there was a softness in the way she tilted her head, a curiosity that made her seem approachable despite her alien nature. He had spent days trying to decode her expressions, and yet he felt that there was always more beneath the surface. "I should warn you," Elias said, "the other species here are not used to this." He gestured between them. "I mean, a human and an Elari spending time together. Some of them might find it strange." Lyra's lips curved slightly. "I am aware, but I find it enlightening. Your species has qualities that are rare and I wish to understand them more." Their first day together was spent exploring the station. Elias showed her the human areas. The gym where humans exercised in artificial gravity, the kitchens where food smelled more like comfort than science, and the lounge where humans relaxed with music, laughter, and conversation. Lyra watched everything with fascination, occasionally asking questions in a soft voice. "Why do humans laugh at such strange things?" she asked, tilting her head. "Because sometimes life is absurd," Elias said. "Laughter is how we make sense of it or just survive it." Lyra considered this. Survival through joy. Interesting. By mid-afternoon, they reached the diplomatic quarters, where serious discussions often took place. A small meeting had already begun with representatives of the Clith and the Granids. Elias and Lyra approached quietly. "Captain Trent," one of the Clith said, silver eyes narrowing, "you are not required here." "I know," Elias said, holding up his hands, "but she is curious, and I promised to show her some human diplomacy in action." The Clith raised an eyebrow, skeptical, but allowed them to observe. The meeting was tense. A misunderstanding over the sharing of technology had led to arguments between the Clith and the Granids. Voices rose, translating awkwardly through the station's universal translators. Elias listened carefully. He noticed patterns in the way the aliens argued. They were logical, strict, and rigid. Humans, on the other hand, often approached conflict differently, through compromise, humor, or improvisation. He leaned closer to Lyra. "Watch this," he whispered. When one Granid delegate growled, Elias interjected softly. "I think I understand what you mean, but perhaps if we consider it this way." He used a small story, a human analogy about sharing tools in a village on Earth, and the room quieted. Lyra watched intently as the Clith and Granid delegates exchanged glances, some of them blinking in surprise. By the end of the meeting, the tension had eased. Not completely resolved, but enough that no one left in anger. Lyra looked at Elias. "You do not impose your will. You find ways to guide others. That is a human strength." Elias shrugged. "Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you try, and humans, we rarely give up." Their afternoons soon became a mix of cultural exchange and small adventures. Elias introduced Lyra to human games. Simple exercises of strategy and chance, laughter echoing through the corridors as Lyra attempted, and failed, to grasp the subtleties of human rules. In turn, Lyra shared the ways of the Elari, their methods of communication, meditation practices, and even basic telepathy exercises. Elias found himself opening his mind in ways he hadn't anticipated. "You can sense intentions," he said one evening as they practiced, "but it doesn't tell you everything. You still have to listen, observe, and guess sometimes." Lyra nodded. "Yes, human uncertainty is enlightening. It teaches patience, flexibility, and creativity." Just as Elias was beginning to feel comfortable, the station alarm blared. Red lights flashed along the corridors. Overhead speakers translated the announcement. A rogue faction had infiltrated the docking bay, threatening to seize control of the station's central systems. "Rogue faction?" Elias repeated aloud. "Seriously, today?" "Yes," Lyra said calmly. "We must act." Elias glanced around. Humans had emergency protocols, but they were often chaotic. aliens followed rigid procedures. He quickly realized that their only hope was cooperation between species and the willingness to improvise when rules failed. He turned to Lyra. "Stay close. We'll need to think fast." They ran through the corridors together, Lyra using her subtle telepathy to sense approaching enemies, Elias relying on intuition and quick thinking. Together, they guided humans and aliens alike, calming panic and redirecting personnel. In the control room, the rogue faction had already started hacking into the station's systems. The humans panicked, unsure how to respond to alien technology. Elias stepped forward. "Listen, everyone. Follow my lead." He quickly devised a plan. Human engineers would disrupt the rogue systems while aliens provided security. Lyra stood beside him, her calm presence giving authority to his instructions. "Captain Trent's methods are effective. Trust him," she whispered into the translator network, projecting authority without raising her voice. Through quick thinking, careful observation, and improvisation, they managed to regain control of the station systems. The rogue faction was contained before any real damage occurred. Exhausted, Elias slumped into a chair. Lyra stood beside him, looking out at the stars through the observation window. "You see," she said softly, "your species has qualities that save the station. Flexibility, courage, improvisation, qualities that rigid logic alone cannot achieve." Elias laughed, though tiredly. "So my joke of a marriage proposal actually led to this. Unbelievable." Lyra smiled faintly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it only revealed what I already saw in humans: potential, courage, and creativity." The incident earned them respect from both humans and aliens. Delegates approached them, some skeptical, some impressed, asking questions and offering congratulations. Elias realized that humor, courage, and quick thinking had proven themselves, not just in playful situations, but in moments of real danger. Later that night, Elias and Lyra walked along the observation deck again. The station was calm now, quiet except for the hum of life support and the distant twinkle of stars. "You handled that remarkably," Elias said. "I've never had to manage humans, aliens, and telepathic beings at the same time, and somehow we did it." Lyra's eyes reflected the starlight. "You did not act alone, but your courage, your ability to adapt, it was essential. Humans are remarkable. I am learning that every day." Elias felt a warmth in his chest. He was proud, not of himself alone, but of humanity, and of what humans could accomplish when they embraced their strengths. "I still can't believe you accepted my joke," he said quietly. "I accepted it because I saw value," Lyra said simply. "Your humor is not trivial. Your courage is not ordinary, and your species has potential. I wish to explore that further." Elias nodded. "Well, I guess we'll have plenty of time for that." They watched the Earth rise in the distance, peaceful and distant, a reminder of the home he was protecting, not just for humans, but for a future where humans and aliens could work together. The station's crisis had shown them something vital. Humanity was not defined by weapons, technology, or power alone. It was defined by ingenuity, heart, and courage. And sometimes, it was the simplest traits, humor, honesty, and daring, that could achieve the most extraordinary results. As the lights dimmed for the artificial night cycle, Elias realized that the joke that started it all was no longer just a joke. It was the beginning of something bigger, a journey of understanding, trust, and perhaps a bond that could extend across species and stars. And for the first time, he felt that he was not just a representative of humanity. He was part of something greater, something new, something worth protecting. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, new discoveries, and Elias Trent, with Lyra by his side, was ready to face them all, humanity's courage and creativity leading the way. The station was quiet, but tension lingered in the air. The rogue faction's failed attempt had reminded everyone that peace was fragile. Delegates from multiple species gathered in the central chamber of the orbital city, a floating metropolis orbiting a gas giant. Its towers sparkled with lights, and its streets were suspended in transparent walkways, giving the illusion of walking in space. Elias Trent stood near the entrance, adjusting his uniform nervously. Beside him, Lyra remained calm. Her eyes reflected the city lights, and her posture radiated confidence. She had learned much about humans in a short time, and Elias had learned that her calm presence was as important as any weapon or strategy in a crisis. "This is it," Elias whispered. "The council session. If we fail here, humans might lose credibility with the Elari and others." Lyra tilted her head. "Your species has already demonstrated its worth. Courage, humor, adaptability, they were evident. Now it is time for others to see it too." The chamber was vast, filled with delegates seated on floating platforms. Some hovered in zero-gravity pods, while others, like humans, stood firmly on the floor. At the center sat the Elari elders, their translucent forms glowing faintly, observing everyone silently. The session was about to begin. The council began with formalities. Speeches were made about diplomacy, security, and cooperation. Elias listened carefully, noting how rigid and structured the alien discussions were. Every word was measured, every gesture calculated. Humans were unpredictable in comparison. When it was time for the debate on human participation in interstellar councils, some delegates were skeptical. "Earthlings," one Cliff delegate said, silver eyes narrowing, "have little experience beyond their planet. Their species is reckless and impulsive. How can they be trusted?" Elias felt his pulse quicken. This was the moment that mattered. Lyra placed a hand lightly on his arm, a subtle gesture of support. "Your concerns are valid," Elias began, speaking clearly and calmly. "But allow me to share an example. Recently, this station faced a security threat. A rogue faction attempted to seize control of the systems. Humans and aliens alike were in danger. Many species might have relied solely on rules or rigid protocols. But humans, through creativity, quick thinking, and teamwork, helped protect everyone, not by ignoring rules but by understanding them and adapting when necessary." A murmur passed through the chamber. Some delegates exchanged glances. Elias continued, gaining confidence. "We are not perfect. Humans make mistakes, but we learn from them. We improvise when needed. We take risks not recklessly but with consideration, courage, and respect. And we listen. We adapt. That is how humanity survives and thrives." Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm and melodic, carrying clearly through the chamber. "I have observed Captain Trent closely. He embodies the qualities I admire in humans: courage, honesty, and the ability to adapt in unforeseen circumstances. His actions during the recent crisis were not isolated. They are a reflection of human potential." The council was silent. Lyra's words had authority. She represented the Elari, a species respected for wisdom and intellect. Her endorsement carried weight. One of the elder Elari, a tall figure with faintly glowing violet skin, spoke. "Your species demonstrates qualities we value. Courage and creativity are necessary for survival in the galaxy. Humans have shown that even in the face of uncertainty, they can succeed." Another delegate, this time a Granid, rumbled low in his throat. "Humans have heart. They act when needed. They are adaptable. We will observe, but they deserve a chance." Elias exhaled slowly. The tension in his chest eased. He had done what humans often did best. He had spoken from the heart, shown courage, and let honesty guide his words. After hours of deliberation, the council reached a decision. Humans would be allowed full participation in interstellar diplomatic forums. The vote was nearly unanimous, with Lyra's support playing a crucial role. Elias felt a surge of pride, not personal pride but pride for his species. Humanity had earned respect not through force, but through ingenuity, adaptability, and moral courage. Later, as the council concluded, delegates began mingling, offering congratulations to Elias and Lyra. Some approached cautiously, others warmly. Many were curious, seeking to learn from the humans and understand the peculiar blend of humor and courage that defined them. Elias turned to Lyra. "I can't believe it, we actually did it." "We did it," Lyra corrected gently, "together. You demonstrated what your species can do, and I stood by your side. That is why we succeeded." Elias laughed softly. "It started with a joke, you know." "My joke about marrying an alien who would have thought it would lead here." Lyra's eyes glimmered with amusement. "I did. I recognized potential from the start. Humor is a form of intelligence. Courage often hides behind it, and humans, they hide many qualities behind laughter. I saw it all and I accepted it." Elias felt a warmth he could not describe. Lyra's acceptance had been the start of something remarkable. It had begun as a joke, but it had grown into mutual respect, trust, and understanding. The next days were filled with preparations for future collaborations. Humans and aliens worked side by side on research, technology sharing, and diplomacy. Elias found himself teaching aliens about human problem-solving, improvisation, and decision-making under pressure. Lyra assisted, guiding discussions and helping bridge gaps between species. One evening, they walked through the city's central plaza. The gas giant loomed large overhead, its swirling clouds illuminated by the city lights. Hovercrafts moved silently above them, and the distant hum of energy fields created a sense of calm. "You've changed the way many of them think," Lyra said. "Humans are no longer seen as unpredictable fools. They are capable, courageous, and intelligent." "I hope it lasts," Elias said. "I've seen too many first impressions fade away. Sometimes people forget what they learn." "It will last," Lyra said confidently, "because you showed them the truth, not through words alone but through action. Humans do not merely speak of qualities, they demonstrate them." Elias paused, looking at her. "Lyra, why me? Why accept my joke?" She smiled faintly. "Because I saw what is rare and valuable and true: humor, courage, creativity. Humanity possesses these traits, but you embodied them personally. You were honest, you were daring, and you were human. That is why I accepted." Elias felt a mix of humility and pride. "I suppose it's more than a joke now. It's partnership, friendship. Maybe even something bigger." Lyra tilted her head. "Yes, something bigger. Trust, respect, understanding, and perhaps a bond between species." The days turned into weeks. Humans began training with alien counterparts, exchanging knowledge, learning customs, and building alliances. Elias and Lyra continued their partnership, growing closer while representing their species. Together, they had faced danger, solved problems, and proved that cooperation and understanding could succeed where power and rigid logic might fail. Finally, the day came when the Council held a celebration to honor the successful integration of humanity into interstellar diplomacy. Delegates from all species attended, music and holographic displays filling the city with color and life. Elias, standing beside Lyra, realized how far they had come. The head Elari elder approached him. "Captain Trent, your species has impressed us. You have shown courage, ingenuity, and humility. Humans are welcome as partners in the galaxy." Elias bowed respectfully. "Thank you. I speak for all humanity when I say we are honored, and we will continue to earn your trust through action, not words alone." The elder nodded. "Then may your species continue to grow, learn, and succeed." Later, Lyra and Elias walked to a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The celebration continued behind them, but here there was silence. "You were right," Elias said. "It's bigger than a joke, it's something important, something lasting." "Yes," Lyra agreed. "It is. And it began with courage and humor, qualities your species will always possess." Elias looked at her, a smile forming. "Well, I guess my joke had good timing." Lyra laughed softly, a sound like wind through crystal. "Good timing indeed, and good choice." They stood together, watching the gas giant shimmer in the distance, the city lights reflecting in Lyra's eyes. The future was uncertain, as it always was, but Elias knew one thing for certain. Humanity had a place among the stars. Not because of strength or technology alone, but because of courage, creativity, and the willingness to act, even when the odds were unknown. And sometimes, a simple joke could change everything. For Elias Trent and for humanity, the galaxy had opened its doors. And together with allies like Lyra, the adventure was only beginning. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and Elias felt hope. Humanity's journey was just starting, and the universe would soon learn that humans, with all their flaws and brilliance, could shine brighter than anyone expected. It was just a joke, until the alien woman whispered, "I accept."